Hello and welcome to the TFF podcast by Fantasy Football Hub, our second episode of the 2023-24 season as we talk all things Telegraph fantasy football. My name is Fergie and I'm joined as usual by two superb Telegraph fantasy managers. Firstly, Luke Wilson. Good to see you, Luke. How are things with you?
Yeah, all good, mate. Actually, yeah, loving life at the moment. Thank you.
Loving life, that's good. How's your fantasy season going in Telegraph so far?
It's not as good as normal life, to be honest. It's all right. No, I'm all right. Well, TFF's fine. Sky's doing all right. FPL, yeah. So, but no, TFF's it's all right. Hardly using any transfers. Don't really care where I am until about Christmas. So all good.
That's okay. Well, look, we'll look at your team in a second. We also have the Hub's resident statistician, Carl Weeks. Welcome back, Carl. And how have things been with you?
Oh, thank you, Fergie. Yeah, no, everything's good with me, and it's I think just about to get a lot better because finally the international breaks are nearly all over for the year, and we can get back to daily football, whether it's Champions League or the Premier League, FA Cup, etc., etc. So things are looking sunnier.
Yeah, this next like 6 or 7 weeks, starting from Saturday, is chaos, isn't it? It's really really exciting. So much happening in the different, in the league and the different cups. You get the FA Cup draw, Champions League groups, and all this kind of stuff. So yeah, really really exciting times. Carl, we've got your current TFF team up. Do you want to just talk us through your season so far?
Yeah, well, the season so far, it's the early part of the season, so I've tried to hold back on transfers where possible. I've used six. One of them's been forced through injury, which was Chilwell. I've made a couple of transfers when people got booked and they sort of flopped, such as Jackson from my original team. But at the moment, I'm holding what's the Spurs goalkeeper?
Vicario, yeah.
Vicario, that's it. And my backline is Colwell, Shah, and Ugugi of Spurs. I should have said I'm playing a 3-4-3.
Yep.
In midfield, I've got pretty solid at the moment, which is Saka, Mitono, Overpriced, and Felinia. And up front, I've got Haaland, Salah, and Watkins. So I just bought in Watkins last weekend. I finally had enough of Bruno, who stunk out my team at 6.3 million. And I sort of kept him for quite some time, basically because I don't like using transfers and I want to give people a chance. And just because they have a poor run, they did have really good fixtures coming up. But after the Luton game, I thought enough's enough. And Watkins has been sort of a bit of a star, and I made a decision. So hence I've used six transfers. Early in the season, my team was going pretty well. I was about 5k, and then Newcastle started to have a few clean sheets, and I dropped down to about 15k, and I'm up to about just outside the top 10. Yeah, about 10k at the moment. But I'm happy considering I've got how many transfers I've got remaining. So revving the engines, ready for the race for the second half of the season, as
Absolutely.
they say.
You're in a really good spot there, Carl. That's 10.4k, 34 left. Really good team. Just couldn't, like, Mitoma may have had a knock. He may miss a game or something. Looks like Pelina's got a 1-game suspension as well. But other than that, your team's in really good shape. Your structure, your price points are really good, aren't they, as well?
Yeah, no, I've got a couple of transfers planned, which I don't know whether we'll sort of go through later.
Yeah, we will
the
do.
team that you mentioned. But yeah, I'm really happy with how the team looks and where it is compared to the optimal team that we'll sort of discuss later. So yeah, I'm very content with the shape, structure, and the players that I've got in so much, and I can just chill a little bit for a couple more weeks before we get into the business around the new year.
Lovely stuff. Luke, we've now got your team on screen. Similar sort of rank and transfer use. How's your season going so far?
Yeah, it's pretty good. I was relatively happy with my starting team, and I had one of those. Sometimes you have like a season defining like 5 minutes, and I think I messaged you boys and so well, I'll go through my team and then I'll tell you one of my transfers which could have just gone so the other way. So I've got Vicario in goal, Saliba, doubling up at Newcastle because I think the shells are so cheap and you know, there's plenty of options. I've got 2 mil in the bank, so I can pretty much go anywhere at the back anyway. Brought in trips recently. I've got Diaby, Saka, Berg, who I started with. Bought in Palmer for Eze. I tried to hold on Eze, but the injury just kept going back and back and back. So I just thought I'd bite the bullet, that's worked out well. Started with Haaland and Salah and kept them, and I brought in Alvarez when he had his purple patch. But so there's, you know, really it's just Lascelles and Alvarez that I feel like I want to do something with. But yeah, the one thing is probably worth talking about. Lyle Foster, Burnley, 2.1 million. I was shouting him out to you boys on WhatsApp. Brought him in every format that game, and he got an assist and then scored a goal that got ruled out. And 2 minutes later, he got sent off. So I ended up minus points, and I would have had over 10 points from that one. He was my Sky captain that night as well. But like, yeah, that was like literally finished football. I was like, oh, result. Got in the car, went, oh my god!
Couldn't have gone any worse, could it? That one, yeah. That's where he elbowed the defender in the chest, didn't he?
Yeah, I hadn't even seen what he'd done, and then I was just like, "You idiot!" And the thing is, I think he did it for the goal being ruled off. I'm still convinced it was a perfectly fine goal as well.
I was as well. Yeah, it was like a handball, wasn't it, for the assister? But it wasn't a handball.
So, and I would like, the thing is, he ended up moving to Alvarez because I had loads of money. But the amount of money I would have had in the bank, because it's pretty much the same team as this, but just him, and I would have just kept him. Yeah. But I mean, he's injured at the moment, isn't he? But like, all the same, yeah, that was horrible, that one. But so yeah, that effectively wasted 2 transfers to get a -1, I think it was, for the night, or maybe it was 0 or something. But yeah, but then Alvarez scored a few, so I wouldn't have had those points otherwise. But yeah. But no, happy with my team. 6 transfers. I think when we podded last time, the sort of, I said I'd be happy with less than 8 or 10, I think. So yeah, so I'm quite happy with where we are. We've got some decent fixtures, you know, 3 for 0s, I think, for a couple. So yeah,
good work.
Pretty happy.
13k, 34 left. Really good stuff. Really good team. Again, good. You know, good. Like the shape and structure of his team as well. You've got a lot of options there. You're not going to have to use 2 transfers to do anything, especially with money in the bank. So yeah, really good shape, mate. Very well played. Got mine on screen now. I've got Vicario, and Saliba, which I've held from the start. I've got Udogi. I was going to start off with. I'm a Spurs fan, so I obviously knew a little bit about him, but I just wasn't confident that he was going to start every game, because he started off reasonably well, but. Yeah, he's done incredibly well for his price, 2.6 million. Obviously, he got injured, then he got a red card, and now he's been suspended. So he's still in my team at the moment. Trippier, I had the same story as you, Carl. So this is where I fall down sometimes in this game. Is I'm a bit too slow sometimes to jump on trends because I want to save transfers. So I probably jumped on Trippier a bit too late. I missed probably about 40 points of his first before I jumped on him a few weeks ago, but I've got him in now. He's a long-term hold. That's the thing with Telegraph in it compared to other formats, is because there's no overhauls or wild cards or stuff. He's just thinking for the long haul. He's not going anywhere now, and I know over the season he'll be really good. I've got Saka, Mitoma I've held from the start, who's been really good, up and down. Hasn't done much recently, and looks like he might have a knock now. So not sure what to do with him yet. I've had Bowen in for the last 3 or 4 weeks. I brought him in for Bruno. So similar to you guys, there's mega frustrations with Bruno. I had enough of him, so I brought him in for Bowen. And Bowen, I think he scored 3 and 4 or something since, so that's worked out well. He's pretty good on tackles, Bowen, as well, which is quite nice. And I brought in Cole Palmer for Nakamba. Nakamba done okay, actually, but he's on 4 bookings. His tackles have dried up, and he was just like a one-pointer nearly every week. So I moved him to Palmer last week. I've had Haaland for the season. I've had Alvarez since really early. He was one move I got right. I got on him before he started scoring points, which was nice. And then jumped on Salah at the right time, just as he went on that kind of really good run. So I have used 8 transfers. I was going to use another 2 on the weekend. So apologies to any hub members who followed my article. I was plotting a triple move of Udogi, Nakamba, and Alvarez to Ben White, Palmer and Gordon, but Ben White didn't start on Saturday, did he? And he was the kind of linchpin in the move, because I needed to release funds from from Alvarez to upgrade Udogie to Ben White, but without that, I had to keep Udogie. It means I couldn't move anything, so I just ended up doing the Camber to Palmer. So 7.9k. I've been kind of hovering between 6 and 11k for most of the season, just kind of moving up and down. Looking at my team now, similar to Luke, I kind of want rid of Alvarez now. I think Udogie is Spurs fixtures from now for the next few weeks are about as bad as it gets. They've got like a lot of the top 6 kind of one after the other. His assists have dried up as well. I know he's mega cheap, but yeah, I'm not sure what to do with him really. So I'm looking for some inspiration in the next hour or so, and I just need to look at Matoma because his points have dried up. Matoma quite significantly. But yeah, overall, kind of, yes. Was reasonably satisfied with the team and the structure and stuff. So yeah, we seem to kind of broadly have a similar-ish setup, and we seem to have similar standard to our season so far, which is quite good. Even though we've kind of attacked it 3 different ways, which is quite interesting. So yeah, how have you found the season so far, Carl, just in terms of like the game? There's been lots of injuries, haven't there? And obviously looking at all our teams, we've all got quite cheap defences. We don't see many clean sheets anymore.
Yeah, it's well, it's in our pre-season pod. I think there's a couple of things we sort of talked about. One that we won't go with 5 at the back this year because of the prices and the way the point systems worked, and we've all kept to that, and all 3 of us have got 3-4-3 formations, which itself is a shift in what it's been historically over the past few years. And secondly, because of the extra time, and I don't know if you remember, at pre-season I was saying about the goal odds.
Yeah.
And that has just gone up, and not only has there been very few clean sheets, like the number of goals that have been banged in every week is so much more than we've experienced in the past. So yeah, but it all which has made it more enjoyable watching the football, and there's more points on offer, and it's make the games more enjoyable because the players that you want are scoring the goals, which makes it much more fun. Though there has been injuries, because I don't know whether it's because of the number of games in the late World Cup or whether it's all the additional extra time. I think I've been quite fortunate that I've missed a lot of the injuries, but I know that at the beginning of the season there was a fair few, and people have got caught out, like as they got injured, as Luke mentioned, and then the Burnley player, then there's Reece James and Chilwell. Though they both get injured all the time anyway, so I don't know if that's much of a surprise.
Yeah, interesting. Luke, any kind of early observations for the season that you think will, clues to how the season's going to go?
Help if I come off mute. I mean, I think there haven't been as many clean sheets as there should be. So there's a few teams that do fancy to tighten up a bit, and Spurs weirdly were really good for clean sheets at the start. I mean, that's very unspursy. They seem to have found their usual pattern again. Sorry, mate. But I would think City will start keeping clean sheets because they do tend to do that as they go on through the seasons. But I won't be going anywhere near any City defenders for obvious reasons that you can't pick any, and I don't think Ederson is very good value. So it's sort of that's where I think it is. But it is, yeah, I don't know why. I probably need to do a bit of analysis to try and work out what's going on. There must be some behind it. It might be sort of different tactics and stuff, but sort of the Chelsea City game sort of highlights it from the other day, didn't it? Like that was 3-3, I think it was, wasn't it?
4-4 it finished, mate. Missed the end.
Even. Yeah, sorry, yeah.
You must have missed the end. It was good.
Yeah, no, it was because I got Palmer. Yeah, he got a penalty. It was brilliant. But no, yeah. So I don't know, not really anything more to add than Carl said. But it's but I do. Yeah, City is the ones I fancy to sort of tighten up.
Yeah. Same. Nothing much more to add really. Kind of cheapish at the back. Probably Newcastle, Arsenal defence look pretty decent still. They're kind of I've never been a fan of the 5 they're like the 4.5, between the 4 and 5 million midfield bracket, but it's becoming more and more popular, and like players like Bowen and Maddison and and players like that have really come to the fore in the last few seasons, I think. So I think there's a lot more value there now. And yeah, 3-4-3 or 3-5-2 looks to be the way to go, I think, for the foreseeable. Let's have a look at the top point scorers so far, which also may give us some clues. Keepers, Pope is top 58, Alisson 57, Onana 53, Vicario 2.5 million. He's the gem we picked out at the start of the season. He's certainly been worth the money. Johnson for Palace, only a point behind, 51, only 2.9 million. Leno, somehow he does it, don't he? Leno every season in fantasy, 3.4 million, 49. Sanchez at Chelsea, same. Areola, West Ham. Obviously, he was priced as the second keeper, but is the first keeper at 42. Looking at defenders, unsurprisingly, Trippier is top, even though they got off to a horrid start, didn't they? I think they lost. Did they lose 3 out of their first 5 or something, didn't they? But then, then they came roaring back. He's had a few assists and things, so he looks really good. Saliba, 54 points, looks great value, at Arsenal. Anderson and Mitchell, probably surprising for me and you, Luke. Maybe not so surprising for Carl, because we know that Luke can always, Carl can always spot a bargain in that, in the Palace shirt. Ben White at Arsenal as well. Shah Zinchenko. So Newcastle, Arsenal, and Palace are the teams kind of dominating the top of the defensive stats there. Midfielders, top of the shop, Bowen, 5.2 million, 72 points, and Saka just behind him, Maddison. They're the 3 who are top, premium price tags, 5 million plus. Luis Douglas, I always see D. Luiz, and I always default to saying David Luiz, but it's not, it's Douglas Luiz. For Aston Villa, 3.5 million. He's been a revelation in fantasy this season, on penalties, on free kicks, good at tackles as well. So 3.5 million, he's been really good. He is on 4 bookings, so it is worth noting that, but he's been superb. Diaby at Villa as well has been really good at 4 million. Jensen at Brentford, 3.4 million, has been, he's gone under the radar, I think. Gordon at Newcastle, 3.4 million as well. So they've both got 55 points. Gordon was one I was looking to bring in on the weekend, actually, because he's been playing up front, and with Harvey Barnes out and Wilson and Isaac both injury prone, he's looked really good. And then just looking at the forwards, unexpectedly, Haaland top of the shop, 96 points. Salah 83, Watkins 77, Son 67. And Bomo, 3.8, who was in a lot of game week 1 teams, just 3.8 million, 62 points. He's been an absolute steal. And the fixtures he's got coming up are incredible as well. And then Alvarez, 4.9 million, 60 points. I think we maybe all thought that Alvarez would have, been on the bench, but obviously with De Bruyne injured, he's become a pretty integral part of that team now, taking up that role. And then a couple of more surprising ones. Solanke and Hwang Hee-chan are both in the 50s as well, scoring really well for good prices. So looking at the kind of profile there of teams and players, there's not a lot of names that have massively gone under the radar. I think that potentially Solanke, Hwang, Jensen for me, Anderson and Ben White, Tariq Mitchell as well at 2.9 million, incredible. Maybe Johnston as well, but Luke, what's your kind of thoughts so far on the top point scorers?
I mean, I think it's a lot of the names that you would expect to see. There's a couple of interesting ones that sort of you didn't quite get to, and I think, to be fair, I think there's a few that will drop off a little bit. But I didn't say it before, actually. There was what's coming up in the season, but I think it's Victor Mykolenko, isn't it? The Everton, I think it's Victor anyway. But him being on that top list, playing for Everton, who've not done well, and they've got to up it or they're going to drop off. So there could be a little bit of a gamble in Everton players because that 10 points is big for where they are. So they're very cheap, a lot of their players. So it's could be an interesting place to go. But I think overall, I mean, the names, certainly the sort of top three strikers, you'd probably pick those three. I think, I mean, you might see Nunes rise up a little bit. As you know, I don't really like strikers because they're so expensive. And I think if you look across, Watkins at 5.5 or like Bowen, I'd probably want Bowen. I know Watkins got slightly more points, but like bit cheaper, and I think Bowen will continue to do it because he's always been there.
Yeah.
So it's a shame Maddison got injured because he's been brilliant as well. It's a real shame, but no, I think pretty standard. I think, but we'll see that fluctuate a bit because there were some names that are way down now that were quite high early on in the season. So it's riding those waves, isn't it?
It is. Anything to add, Carl, on the overall points?
Just a couple of things, and I agree with Luke. Like in two senses: there's a lot of the names are in line with your expectations, and secondly, there will be quite a bit of fluctuation. Like you mentioned, Anderson and Mitchell. Well, some of that is just because it's still only 12 games, and if they've had 5 clean sheets, they're on the high side of variance.
Yeah.
And on average, they've probably only had 3 or 4, and they probably just happen to have a goal and assist each as well. But it sort of like just inflates their score, and you wouldn't expect it. Same with Douglas Luiz, and I think it's Jensen when I looked at earlier. I think that they're on the high side of variance, and you expect them to go to the mean, revert back to the mean side. Now, when I look at these charts, and you mentioned the points, the biggest value, or one thing that's worth looking at is the points per pound per game. Yep. So because you mentioned like on the strikers, you mentioned Salah in second place. Like out of all the strikers, he's still below 1 point per game per million. And Son, who's fourth, and people like he's really good on other games, he's 0.87. So there's players there that even though they get a lot of points, they're not very good value wise. And the same on midfielders. The midfielders actually across the board until you get to Bruno, and he's on like 0.67. So even though he's in the top, he may be like 10th or 12th, whatever number he is. There's key indicators there which sort of says avoid based on his value or his cost at the moment. On the defenders, Walker, same 4.8, but he's only scoring his return is 0.7. Edison that Luke mentioned, another poor value one. And you can also like pick up good value ones. And you mentioned Vicario and Johnson. The other one that I thought about pre-season and he's doing extremely well is Neto of Bournemouth. And his points is a little bit low because he missed a couple of games through injury. But Bournemouth won't be doing very well, but he's performing excellently.
Yeah.
So but overall the names are as you'd expect.
Yeah, got that slide up now. The points per million per games. Have a guess who's top of the strikers, Luke?
Yeah, it's my mate, isn't it? I know.
Lyle Foster, incredible. He's missed loads of games as well, but yeah, that was hell of a pickup.
Yeah, it's a funny one. I mean, it's because I was going to jump in when just at the end of what Carl was saying because I get the point on Salah, and you know what I'm like. I'm normally a one striker, but there is so much value that even using one of those striker spots on Foster, like I'll probably go back to him at some point because he's the top of the value. But like, do you really want to go without one of those striker spots? Because like Neto or Mbuemo or even or Watkins, there's a load of them. I mean, Cameron Archer at 2.5, I think 2.5. He's there as well. It's just value everywhere this season, and not spending. Trent not firing. Trent firing, I think, would help the game. I think because there'd be a few jump on him. So it's interesting, but sort of sorry, taking this off a bit because obviously Foster's sad to me,
Yeah,
make me cry.
Think I love this slide because I think for me, like looking at my team and looking at the players I know I'll keep. So, for example, I'll keep Vicario, Saliba, Trippier, Saka, Haaland, Salah. They're kind of the almost non-negotiables for me at the moment. But what this helps me do then is almost fill in the gaps, right? Is looking at those real value plays. But I don't just look at it from the actual points per million, because obviously you want to fill your budget as much as possible as well. But the names which stand out for me, looking at players I like, and also players playing for good teams who've got good fixtures, like Mbeumo at 3.8. I know they have the break over Christmas. They missed like the one game over Christmas, but Mbeumo at 3.8, 62 points is like that's a crazy amount of points for a 3.8 million forward. So he's definitely on my horizon. Watkins is up there in the forwards as well at 5.5. I know he's quite expensive, but he's really good. Visser, Brentford 3.3. They're the kind of players I'm looking at. Midfielders, top of the shop on this slide is Cole Palmer at 2.5, and I think we're going to see him in a lot of teams. Their next 2 or 3 fixtures, Chelsea's are quite tough, but after that they have a beautiful run over Christmas, and he's a 2.5 million midfielder on penalties for a top, well, we can say a top 8 team, whatever you want to call it, but he looks really, really good. Alenia, Gordon, Douglas Luiz, Jensen, they all offer really, really good value. And then looking at the defenders, I know we've talked about Arsenal and Newcastle, but Palace are up there again. Anderson, Mitchell, Michaelenko you've mentioned as well. Luke, this slide really, really helps me kind of look to fill in those gaps. Personally, there's lots of like incredible options there, aren't there? And like I say, if you can find these players, these real bargain players, and then line them up with they're going to play. They play for good teams. They've got good fixtures. That's really the kind of ingredients I look for when kind of building my team out. So yeah, looks some interesting options there. Just before we move on, just points per million. The final one, kind of similar names again at the top. Vicario, Johnson top of the keepers. Anderson, Mitchell, Saliba, Trippier top of defenders. Palmer, Louise, Garner for Everton, interestingly actually, at just 2.5 million. And Vinicius Souza, Sheffield United, he's 2.2 million, 36 points. I'm assuming that's because he's pretty good on tackles, I think, isn't he? He's probably got a few tackles. Jensen, Gordon, again, the players we've been talking about. And then for the forwards, Mbeumo, Awoniyi, I think you fancied him at the start, didn't you, Carl? 2.7 million. And then Hwang, Foster, Morris, and Watkins. So yeah, interesting stuff. Anything to finish off, gents, on the on the points and points per million?
I'll just sort of reiterate what you said, Fergie, in sense that these are spotting the value players to sort of like help fill in the gaps, because they're free up budget for the players that you do want. And also that you mentioned about Foster missing a few games and he's still top. Well, he's top in the metrics of points per game. So if you miss a game, you're not penalised. And the good thing about that, so the good thing about this is if someone's injured for a while, but you know that they'd be regular, they're not in the top points table because they just happen to be injured. But you know that when they do come back, that they do score at a very good rate. And the same with Awoniyi, who's missed 4 games or however many games it is, but he is the main player, and now he's coming back from an injury. You know that he performs extremely well. He's the second best striker in terms of returns based on what he's done. So it's like good things to consider. If you need money, he's someone to look out for.
Yep, really good stuff. Any final thoughts on this, Luke, before we move on?
No, I mean, well, in fact, actually, there's one point, and that is the importance of not just burning transfers and just sticking for this bit, because Nicholas Jackson, who I think we'll all have, like I sold him, probably loads of us, and then he's still in the top values there, sat above Haaland, sat above Wilson, sat above Salah. And if we just, so I think you got to remember this is a value game. You've got to spend all your 50 million for it to be true value. But, it's the importance of not using those transfers, I think, is highlighted by him. You would have missed his we'll all have missed his hat trick the other day. So he was an interesting one in that list.
He should have scored 5 that game as well, shouldn't he?
Well, he should have done. He should have scored about 50 goals this season, to be quite frank. He's been terrible, but he's still up there.
He is.
Got to be on the pitch to score.
You have indeed. Bonus points next then. So this is this was a really welcome addition. I can't remember if it was last season or the season before, but bonus points for saves and bonus points for midfielders for tackles. But looking at the keepers first, total number of saves is ordered by Fotheringham for Sheffield United is top. 57 saves, had 26 bonus points because of that. Leno, Fulham, 47 saves, 21 bonus points. Neto and Onana, 45 saves, 20 each. Areola, 44. Kaminsky of Luton, 43. Sarr, Trafford, Allison. And then Vicario, 39, 17 points. Right down the bottom, as expected, the only keeper down the bottom who's played nearly every game this season and who's bottom for save points, unsurprisingly, is Edison, 4.6 million. He's only made 19 saves, 6 points. He is just not an option in this game at the moment, is he, Edison? And all the rest of the keepers around that price point have missed games this season. Interestingly, Johnston, who I think has played every game this season, he's only made 29 saves, only 11 save points, but obviously they've kept a lot of clean sheets, which is why he's so high in the other metrics. I can't see myself going away from Vicario anytime soon. He's a bloody good keeper as well. I don't know if you guys have watched him much, but he makes some cracking saves. I can't see him leaving my team for a long time personally. Have you gents got any thoughts on keepers?
Well, there's a couple of things. I think when you've got a keeper who's decent, as cheap as that, why do you need to? I mean, I don't think he will go, even unless there's like a 4 for 1 or a 3 for 0, where I can then get him back the other end. Yeah. But he's so cheap, he enables it. I mean, I just don't think it's worth the jump. There's a side point, and Carl jump in and bring us back to keepers in a second. But I think this, in the absence of using like expected goals, expected defense, I guess, this is a really good measure, because if you look at that list, you've got Edison, Johnston, Pickford's very surprising. I talked about Everton earlier, but those, you don't want to target those keepers because they're not going to get the save points, but you might want to target the defenders, because if they're only conceding that many shots on target this way through the season, that's pretty good. There's a really interesting keeper there who historically has always been up the top of the saves, which is Martinez. And I think that indicates just how good Villa have been this season. The fact that he'd normally be probably in top 5 for saves, and he's right down there. So that's quite interesting as well. So I think you can sort of take these saves and flip it on its head. So the keepers for relatively bad teams, good, worth targeting, but the keepers for the really tight ones, you probably want to target the defenders and definitely don't go near the keepers.
Yep. Any thoughts on keepers, Carl? You just you keeping Vicario, I take it?
Yeah, I'll be keeping him for exactly the reasons you all mentioned. The only interesting keeper near the top, who you wouldn't expect on the saves points, is Onana of Man United. Sort of seeing him up there, which is quite.
You've clearly not been watching Man United. I completely expect him to be up there. They're terrible.
Well, no, yeah, but I mean, from the beginning of the season, I know he's letting loads of goals and everything else, but you wouldn't expect him to make loads of saves, that many saves. I know they're bad, but you're sort of saying like that's the 4th worst.
I know, it's mad, isn't it?
For third, which is crazy.
It is.
And then looking at the top of the tackles, I mean, the number one, João Palhinha, he's only started 9 games and he's got 53 tackles. That is over 5 tackles a game. That is absolutely insane. 24 tackle points, 3.1 million. I see he's in your team, isn't he, Carl? And he's been doing you proud by the look of it. Marvelous Nakamba, who we pointed out at the start of the season, 2.5 million, 37 tackles. They have dried up recently. He's got like 1 or 2 tackles in the last 4 games or something. That's why I moved him on. But 15 points from tackles for for someone that cheap, that's not bad. Vinicius Shoes, we mentioned earlier, 11 games, 36 tackles, only 2.2 million. He is mega cheap. If you're looking for someone around that, 2.2 and 2.1, sort of Lyle Foster, obviously, when he's back, and Vinicius Souza, 15 tackle points, just 2.2 million. Bissouma, 35 tackles. Decore for Palace, 32. Gallagher for Chelsea, 32. Garner for Everton, 30. Norwood, 29. Norgard, previous favourites, 28. I think we picked out Norwood, didn't we? Pre-season as well. And then some more, yeah. So I personally think with the emergence of players like Cole Palmer, Douglas Luiz, and maybe even Anthony Gordon, and Paulinho put in there as well. We've mentioned about the value in defence and things as well, and and some other value players up front. I'm just not sure you need to pack your teams full of these sorts of players. I think that having Palmer could be a bit of a game breaker, really, because he's going to get attacking returns and the odd tackle point as well to kind of almost contra these out. That's my early thoughts. I don't know, Luke. Any thoughts on on these midfield tacklers?
Well, yeah, two things. I think it's far more enjoyable holding a attacking player like Palmer, same price, because well. I mean, we are sad enough to be counting up tackles as they happen in the game. I think we've all been there for 20 years, but it is quite fun watching a potential goal scorer. I mean, I actually had nerves for once. Fantasy football with him going up and taking that penalty. I was just like, please don't miss, and it's just nice. There is an interesting point with Fallina, and I think there's a question on it, but the fact that he 11th minute drop out that Bayern transfer and he's come back and he's been brilliant this season. Well, I say that kid because of my age now, but what a good head he must have in his shoulders to bounce back and just block it out, and just he's probably his best he's been. And yeah, he's just a beast, isn't he?
Against Spurs, I think it was Spurs a few weeks ago. I think it was Spurs. He got 5 tackles in the first half an hour. He was just it's not that often you see a player playing that role that when you actually watch him, you realise just how dominant he is. His timing, his strength. He is such a good footballer. I really think he is going to be at a massive club soon and an absolute world superstar. I really, really do.
Yeah, when you've got that work ethic and a level of ability that he must have as well, he should be top 4 here or one of the well-known games. I mean, tell you what, if he goes to a big club in the UK, I doubt he will, because I don't think Fulham really want to sell him, but maybe he will. But a big, one of the top 4, Man United. I mean, we talked about Casemiro pre-season. I mean, he's still on the table, but he's been awful. But he could be brilliant for a team like Man United, absolutely change him.
Absolutely.
So don't think Chelsea or Man City will buy him. Someone's probably not going to happen.
Yeah.
but could be interesting.
Yeah, good stuff. Anything else, Carl? What's your thoughts on these sorts of players? I know you've got a couple already, haven't you? You've got Paulinho at least.
Yeah. Well, I think this complements the previous tables we're sort of talking about. Is who gets tackles that are going to come in consistent, and do they sort of like chip in with odd goals? So Paulinho is he's a standout. And it's like if you have him in your team, and because you mentioned about the other players, you don't really need to sort of pick at this list as much.
Yeah.
But if he does go to Bayern, then maybe some of these other players are worth considering. Decore or Palace, he's consistent. Gallagher, especially if he starts getting odd goal, and Gardner from Everton, so cheap, etc., etc. I understand some of the players you mentioned, right? Palmer. It's like, yeah, he's got 4 goals recently, but 4 penalties. What happens when the Kuka comes back? Will his minutes get reduced? I think he's a great buy, but it comes with risk. Fellaini comes with risk. Will he go off to Bayern Munich? Who was the other one you mentioned? Oh, Douglas Luiz. I think that's just variance, and he will revert to the mean. The one that I like the most is probably Gordon, out of those other ones. But yeah, for the time being, I don't think we need to pick up this list except for the one at the top of the shop.
Yeah, really good point, especially with Palmer, so cheap as well, isn't it? Yep, definitely. Optimum team. Love this. I love the Optimum team. Do you want to talk us through it, Carl?
Sure. Okay. Well, I've got three optimal teams. I've done the optimal team, which I'll start off with, and it comes out with 3-4-3 formation. A lot of the names you'd have heard from the discussions already. So Vicario in goal. Then we got Trippier, Anderson, and Saliba. And then in midfield we got Barbie, Gordon, Louise, Bowen, and up front we got Haaland, Watkins, and Salah. So that in total they 49.8 million, scored 714 points. The current leaders on 761, and it'd be joint 32nd.
Oh.
So, and that's 0 transfers used. Now, I know it's amazing, and but the problem is most of those names are names, especially when you sort of Vicario at the beginning that you mentioned, Andy, is like with that you could have virtually have picked most of those. You may not have picked Anderson and you may not have picked Louise, but you know that's not most of those names are common names.
Yeah.
I then picked another team where I forced it to go 5 at the back just to sort of see what team it would produce. So it's just to compare, because historically we used to go 5 at the back, and it had been Pope in goal, Trippier, Ben White, Anderson, Mitchell of Crystal Palace, and Saliba. Again, you'd have Louise, Bowen, and Saka in midfield, and up front you'd have Haaland, Watkins, no Salah. But this would be 26 points worse. So it's quite a lot worse than the optimal team. And there's a bit of variance in there as well. And the third team that I picked is to let it run free, but I've taken out players which I think are running a little bit hotter than normal. So I've taken out Anderson, I've taken out Louise, and I've taken out Judson because he would have otherwise appeared. And you'd have a team of Vicario in goal, Trippier, Ben White, and Saliba, Diaby, Gordon, Sacco, Bowen, Mbemba, Haaland, and Watkins up front. 49.7 million, and that scores 702 million. So that's sort of taken out a bit of the, nobody would have guessed Louise at the beginning of the season.
I think we called him out. I think we called him out at the start of the season. I know Adam Hotcroft was saying he was reckon he was going to have a storming season at the start of the year.
He's on pens as well, isn't he?
I don't think Louise is variance. It's an Anderson I do, but I think Palace are good. Don't get me wrong. I wouldn't take Louise out of that because I think he is a solid player. He's on pens.
Well, I think when you look, maybe I can't remember the top of my head, but I did remember looking at his XG compared to his actual goals scored, and he's above, and that's not even accounting. And that's not accounting. Obviously, when you have a penalty, that's a high XG anyway. So his other goals have come. And I'm not sort of saying, he could keep it up, but I bet you at the end of the season he won't be in that optimal team. No, I could be wrong, and he could sort of carry on. So it's just like an alternative optimal.
Feels like a Fergie bet, that does.
That's about right. Do you know what I'm really excited about? That team on the top right there. I'm only 3 moves away from that, and 2 of them were the ones I was playing on the weekend, which were Gordon and Ben White. And I didn't do it because Ben White didn't start, but I'm not far away from that team on that right hand side, and it's a very, very sexy team, that one, isn't it? I like that. Yeah,
that one on the right hand side, the last one that I sort of read out, is every player is like, I feel like I know them, and I have and I have confidence in them.
Every single player looked at, I think.
Yeah, like him. Of course, there's no Salah, so you won't like it, Fergie. But I'm happy to go out with Salah and get that team in.
Yeah, I think with Salah, it was his it was his run of games. We'll look at fixtures in a minute, but he had that really long-term run of games, didn't he? We've already gone through sort of 5 or 6 of them, and he has been returning incredibly well.
Yeah.
But yeah, really
Yeah,
interesting stuff there.
Yeah, he's had a nice little period.
Yes.
Yeah, I was a bit fortunate. I managed to move off. I finally lost my rag with Rashford and brought in Salah, and then he scored his first brace, which was a bit fortunate on that sort of side.
Yeah.
But when you look at his value point on the previous slides, he doesn't. You know, you can say that he's a bit too. He costs a little bit too much for his output. Yeah. Assuming his output that he's done so far is representative of his ability.
Yeah.
And therefore, I'll take him out. And I'd love a team similar to the one on the right, and I will be shaping that. Will help me shape my next few transfers going up to the new year.
Same. Lovely stuff. Thanks for doing that, Carl. I absolutely love that. Brilliant stuff. You've also prepared some key dates. This is fascinating. So in terms of like medium-term strategy, so Carl has prepared some things that are going to happen from like December the 16th onwards into the new year. Well, it says medium to long term. This is not kind of just short to medium, but some really interesting points to consider when picking players. December the 16th is Man City's last game before the Club World Cup. There are some teams who have 3-0s over them during that time. I think Villa, Man United and Arsenal all have 3-0s over that time, and obviously Brentford will miss as well. So a player I'm really keen on is Mbeumo, but he is going to miss a game. Is that the end of the world? I'm not sure. Something to think about there. And then they play December the 27th is when Man City come back. They're due to play Everton. I think it's been mooted. I don't know if you know any more, Carl, but I think it's been mooted that Man City and Brentford game may be kind of early in the new year. I don't know if you know any more about that.
Has that been announced?
No, it hasn't been announced.
No.
I think Ben Crellin thinks it could be like really early January.
The 4th of January.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like that's potentially, obviously, so. But yeah, that's kind of Man City and Brentford. So just for those who are thinking maybe of bringing in more Man City players, I'd probably look to leave it until after that period, because then they'll have a bit of congestion there with that extra match, and the fixtures, to be fair, are not that great for Man City up until that point anyway. So, and then you've done some notes on AFCON and the Asian Cup, which obviously is it's a bit of a while away, but it's definitely something we should be thinking about. There's a winter break in the Premier League between the 15th and 28th of January. So this is when we have the split game week. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's between the 15th and 28th of January. And if you look, a lot of teams in January don't actually play that many fixtures at all, do they? Because of there's the FA Cup weekend. I know FA Cup counts, but I think some teams only play sort of like maybe 3 games or something in January. Just gonna have a
It wouldn't be that many.
No, it's not. Some even play 2. Plus the FA Cup. So there is FA Cup to think about as well. But there's not a lot of games at all, is there? So and so much can happen that period in January. It's really interesting because normally there's quite a lot of games in January, isn't there? But yeah, some teams. I'm just having a quick look, and between the Monday the 1st and Wednesday the 21st. You give me just one second. At the moment, the fixtures that are actually planned in for this is for the whole of January are that Man City. This excludes FA Cup, but nearly every team just plays twice. Nearly every team, apart from Liverpool, Newcastle, and West Ham, play 3 times. But every other team just the twice, not including FA Cup. Luke, what do you think of that kind of strategy wise? Do you think it's wise just to hold off until this whole period is done, or?
Well, it's always get you. There'll be. I think it's worth targeting a few games around Christmas. You've got to target the Man City
Yeah,
thing,
yeah.
right? So I think you've got. There's going to be two. Well, I've got two transfers there definitely. I'll probably want them back when they come back because then they can have more fixtures. So I think I'm not afraid of using them on those sorts of things. But otherwise, yeah, I do think holding up if you can, but at the same time, if it's for the shape of your team, and we've talked about this before, if there's a, if we know Felina's staying, for example, or he moves to another Prem club, why wouldn't you bring him in? Just make the transfer because him for a couple of games over any other midfielder, value wise, you're better off having him. So I think yes, you do want to target it. I personally think it's a bit bonkers they do the winter break, like because like you just congest it later on, and that causes more injury. Playing games so regular. I mean, why can't you just space it so they get sort of 5 days or 6 days between each game or something? It's madness. There's a big rush and then a break. It's like international football, isn't it? It's boring for us FPL people and fancy football people, but
It means it's going to be like 16 or 17 league matches to be played between February and the end of May. And if you include all the FA Cup, Carabao Cup, Champions League, European football as well, it's going to be mental period. Yeah, these massive highs and lows, isn't it? It's crazy.
It is. But but again, that's you want as many transfers. I think coming out the other side of that January break, you're gonna want at least 25 transfers left because of all of the hop-ons and hop-offs and all the various injuries that will crop up. So I think if I guess the target for me is probably 12 for by the new year, and maybe 2 or 3 in that small period for injuries if I need it. But yeah, it is interesting.
And
I'm
then
not sure I like it. But...
yeah, and then when you add in all the AFCON stuff, so we did kind of touched on it earlier. AFCON possible return date from the group stage is 27th of January, 4th February for last 16, 11th of February for quarterfinals, and if someone like Egypt or any of the teams that have big Premier League representation, they could be out to like middle of February, and they could miss like 4, 5, 6 matches, and then the same for the Asia Cup as well, which will impact players like Son and Matoma. It's pretty mental, really, isn't it?
It is. Well, you all that money you're going to get from moving Salah down to Foster,
Exactly. Carl? What do you think this, all this stuff? Thanks for preparing all this, by the way. I mean, it's absolutely fascinating. What do you think this means from like a Telegraph strategy view?
Okay. In terms of preparation, I just copied and pasted from the internet on AFCON stuff.
Really good preparation. That was good.
But from the strategy, so there's some very interesting stuff here where you just need to sort of think about your team, which players are going away for these breaks, and how you're going to handle it. So, like when you got Salah, he could if he. I think Egypt are one of the better teams. So he could be like gone till mid February. So do you want to obviously you want to take him out? So when do you then have to start planning when you're going to take him out? I think FA Cup. I think do they go after the FA Cup? So they could play the third round of the FA Cup, but would managers really want to play them before they're going off to the tournament? So are they even more likely to be rested on that? And the reason I say this.
Apologies, guys. I just wanted to just add in there quickly. Do you remember last time some of the Premier League teams were kind of making deals with the African nations around them leaving late and things? Do you remember that? Because there was a whole thing of whether Salah would go or not, and it massively affected FPL and all this jazz. We got all this fun and games to come, haven't we?
Yeah, but I don't think that they'll be bothered so much about the FA Cup if it's a league if it's a league game. So maybe like the especially like Man City if they do play on the 4th of January, is that a cut-off date or not? But what I'd sort of say is like Mbembo that we mentioned earlier. I think he's off to AFCON, and obviously they missed the game against Man City. if that double game is not announced, do you want to bring him back, miss a game, and then have to transfer him out again because of AFCON? I don't know. Will the teams that like Sons, if he's going off to the Asian Cup, who's going to play up front for Spurs? So maybe like, especially if Spurs have a very kind home draw, do you think that somebody's going to have a whole run of games through January and probably into February, and will have to play in the FA Cup because they're there for a much shorter term? In my mind, so a lot of those are just you need to consider, especially once the cup draw is done, and who have you got in your team already. For me, I don't think that I've got many. I've only got Salah that's going to the to one of these tournaments. So my plan is so on the bit about the Man City game, I've highlighted some teams that you can jump on to, and some teams that you can't get from before Man City's first game when they return against Everton. So you could, if you wanted to say go from Haaland to an Arsenal player, you can't go then from that same Arsenal player onto Man City when they play Everton. So I've put in bold those teams that you could jump a player to get an extra game, but you can't jump back. But my plan is very simple. I've only got one Man City player, so I don't have to worry too much. It's Haaland. So I'm going to transfer Haaland to somebody, and I don't know who. But come the 27th, I'm going Salah to Haaland. Yeah, and then Salah is off to AFCON. They do have one league game, and I think that's at home to Newcastle, which is a tough game. So I'm minimising my transfers, but I'm managing to not have to go through that blank. So I get rid of Haaland, get him back in time to play Everton, and getting rid of Salah at the same time. So that, you know, how can you finesse those teams? And then secondly, it's like, what's the FA Cup draw going to be? Is there's going to be some teams that are weakened, and you'd expect some of their players would have to play if they've got an easy tie out through January.
Yeah, really good points there, Carl. Like that. Just looking at this, it's made me want to kind of reconsider, but I think it's made me think twice about a few players and about kind of transfer strategy, because it's hardly any games in January. You know, all sorts could happen in that period going into February, and by the time that the end of that rolls around, we're going to know how the fixtures are all going to fall for February, March, you know, and April and stuff. And I think that maybe I just kind of thinking off the top of my head, I'm not as nervous now as maybe making a couple more transfers now. Because normally you tend to go a bit crazy in January. You know, you get past Christmas and you're like, right, Christmas out of the way, let's go. But it doesn't really fall that way this time, does it? So I'm probably not as afraid to make a few more now, and then just kind of leave it over that period to settle down, because you could waste a lot of transfers in that period, couldn't you? Because it's just hardly any games being played.
Yeah. Can I just sort of sorry, I told a little lie, a little missed that. I've got two players that are going off to the competitions. The other one is Matoma.
Yeah,
I've got to mention him because Brighton, because they've been playing in Europe. You mentioned that he may be injured. They're doing a lot more rotation than they normally do.
Yeah, they are.
And I'm in an hour in, and if he wasn't going off to the Asian Cup, I may sort of say, or I'll wait for a little while.
Yeah.
But with knowing that he's going to be missing virtually all of January, and I think that just persuades me to sort of like make my move in the shorter term to get rid of him, because he's going to have to go. And anybody who's going to these cups, if they're going to miss 3 or 4 games, FA Cup and league games or whatever, it's just well get rid. Like if I had Son, I'd get rid. If I had, coming maybe a bit closer, but anyone that you're on the fence for, and like I am with Matoma, he's going to be going before Christmas lunch is served.
for Christmas lunches served like that. Yeah, it's interesting. It's yeah. Sorry, Luke. Go on.
I was just going to say, because while you guys were talking, and I agree, Carl, even copying, it's a great load of information, so it's very helpful. So thank you. I think I've experienced, albeit less so probably in TFF, but in Sky particularly, if you're too tight on your transfers, you can easily miss out. And actually having loads for the 3 for 2s, it's about optimizing it. But if you've got too many transfers, you can't optimize. And so I think as Paul on the Sky pod continually talks about, you need to have a decent burn rate of your transfers. And if you don't want to burn too many, but you don't want to burn too few as well. So I think if you got to that other side of that January window and still had 30 left, you've probably got too many and you've probably missed a few opportunities. So I think I'm gonna, caveat slightly my previous comment. So I want to be between 30 and 25. If if I haven't used those extra 4 that I've got right now that are sort of spare, I've probably wasted a few moves that I should have made.
Yeah, and kind of thinking the same thing, because otherwise by the time you get to that back end from like middle of February to end of May, if you hop on a load of teams or like you hop on a team or a couple of teams for like a 3 for 0 or 4 for 1 or something like that, the odds that every one of them is going to return massively. Some will, but some won't. So you're kind of reducing the opportunity there. Whereas if you've got players you don't really want in your team now, for example, like I've got Udogie, and just an example, I don't really want him because I don't think with Spurs' upcoming fixtures. I mean, the next few fixtures are Villa, Man City, West Ham, and Newcastle. I mean, there's not much to get excited about there, is there? And I've also got Alvarez and like Mitoma as well. Whereas there's a few players we've talked about which can get quite excited about, that can hold long term, have good fixtures. They're in those value charts and stuff as well. Gives me a bit more license maybe to do it a bit earlier, and then, as you say, really just kind of coast through January and come out the other end. But yeah, just kind of thinking off the top of my head, really, no thought has gone into any of this, but it's really interesting stuff. Has it affected your thinking, your strategy, Carl? Knowing you'll just be like that. No, I'm going to hold them all. Then I'm going to go hell for leather from February onwards.
Well, no, it's not February onwards. It is like there are things that are coming up, and your pool is just going to be vastly reduced. So we will be using transfers to move players like I sort of said, the Salah Haaland thing. I was going to get rid of Mitoma, so I've got transfers sort of like planned. But there will be opportunities. Yes, you want to be using transfers at a decent rate, but it's knowing what that rate should be and not just doing it for the sake of it. Oh, so and so's got a good, a couple of good games. You want to jump on in and jumping off. Before you know, you just frittered them away. There will be like if Man City Brentford is confirmed on the 4th of January or whatever day, then it'd be like I will be trying to get in many more Man City players and maybe a couple of Brentford players, depending then when by then you'd have had because you have to wait until after the 16th when they played their World Cup. You'd have known the schedule of the FA Cup games. Is there any teams that you wish to target, etc., etc. But yeah, I would be jumping on a Man City much more heavily if I knew you was going to get an extra game or an extra 2 games. And then obviously you're going to get extra games when the FA Cup comes around. You're going to get extra games for the rearranged League Cup final. So yeah, you need to burn them through, but at the right rate. And it's like, what is the optimal team? If like Udogie that you said to me, he's 2.6 million.
Oh,
why are you fucking around, as they say? transferring in 2.6 billion to another 2.6 million. They don't score many points.
I was thinking that as I said it. I was thinking that as I said it. I think he's and their actual fixtures after those 4 I mentioned are actually really good all over Christmas. They then go Forest, Everton, Brighton, and Bournemouth are their next 4. So he probably is a keep, isn't he?
I'll let you into a little secret.
Well,
everybody plays everybody twice.
Yep, that's fair. That's fair as well.
Yeah, so you know, if you think he's a decent player, just keep him for the year and target the higher value players who are likely to score bigger points over a short period of time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna back up Carl a little bit. If you're gonna jump off him, it was when he got sent off and go when he had the suspensions, because he had this run coming up as well. So I think it was a case of hold and stick, which I think is you've got to, even if he gets 1 point in each of those games, the ones after he'll probably make those points back and average probably 4 points across all of that 8.
Probably right.
Yeah, unless you got a ton of money in the bank because you've gone Salah down to like Foster or something like that. I'm going to keep saying it, broken record territory now. But like otherwise, I think you stick really, because he's great value. He's great value, and that's why you've got him. You got to remember this Nicholas Jackson effect. You find it in draft games all the time. You've got these players, and you think, "Oh God, why have I got this guy? Why did I pick him?" And then they get a hat trick or a brace and an assist or something, and then everything's great, and you're the only one who's got him. And that's what's great about this game is if you stick with it, not many will keep him because they'll have all got him now.
Yep,
but
you're right.
I'm terrible at this game, Fergie, these days. So maybe
you're
just
not,
ignore
mate,
that.
and you are right. Well, as I was saying, get rid of him. I think he pissed me off so much for the last 2 weeks. What did he get? So he got injured. Then he missed a game. Then he had a -4 for the red card, and then he's been suspended. So it's just like those 4 games have just been an absolute disaster. So I think I'm still just a bit raw from that, maybe. So, but I need to look at it in the cold light of day. And then even the 3 of the next 4 I've mentioned are pretty horrific. Like 3 of the 4 are at home as well. So I may hold on to him, especially now I know a bit more about Mitoma. He's injury prone. They're rotating. He's going to be off to the Asian Cup and stuff. Mitoma may be the one to kind of lose to the Udogi. So. Thank you, Carl. You've changed my whole transfer approach for December, which is good. Just got the fixtures up for the next few weeks. Not that we really take a lot of short-term fixtures into account in this game, but interestingly, Fulham are top, then Burnley, then Forest, then Bournemouth, then Wolves. Not much to get excited about there. The next few teams: Newcastle, Spurs, Chelsea, Sheffield United, and Arsenal, and West Ham. There's there's a lot of really good assets from those teams, I think, which are interesting. Down the bottom, Liverpool have a couple of nice fixtures sandwiched in between some tougher ones. They have got Man City next, then they're home to Fulham, Sheffield United, and away to Palace. Then they go United, Arsenal, Burnley, Newcastle. So there's a kind of up and down. And Brentford and Man City, even though they're down the bottom, Brentford's short-term fixtures are absolutely fantastic. But as we already mentioned, they do blank in. This is FPL game week 18, just before Christmas, due to Man City playing the World Club Cup, and then their star player and Bournemouth is going to be off with Cameroon again to AFCON. So like in terms of shortish term fixtures, I don't think there's much to really take from this. But Luke, what kind of players are you targeting? Between now and Christmas.
Bar the fixture swing 80, well, the Man City going, I don't think I am. I mean, it's an interesting one. I think that you look at this because I've heard a few people talking about Chelsea could go on a bit of a run because I think they have underperformed. So that the fact that if you look at the sort of big team names there, you've got Newcastle, Spurs, Chelsea, and Arsenal. but you've got United, Liverpool, Man City down the bottom, and I guess you could chuck Brighton in there. So I think if I was targeting anyone, this is making me think about Gordon at Newcastle. I mean, maybe not for the Chelsea game, but from Everton onward, well, probably United onwards actually, because that's a home game. But they're all very winnable. That little block of 6 in the middle of that. So he could be interesting. Spurs. Kind of, I don't like that Man City game in 2 weeks' time, so I don't think it's the right time to jump on them. But maybe sort of West Ham or Newcastle, maybe jump on there. The Chelsea run, Newcastle away is a hard game, but Brighton aren't the team they were last year, in my opinion.
No, they're not.
And then United, well, fine. Everton, fine. Sheffield United, fine. Luton, Palace, and Wolves are probably the hardest games they've got in there, other than the Newcastle one. So they could be interesting. So I think those if I was going to make a move, Gordon at 3.4, I think he is interesting. If he keeps that place, that's a very good price.
I agree. What about yourself, Carl? Are you planning any transfers or targeting any teams in the next few weeks?
Well, I'm planning to make a few transfers. I need to sort of sit down and plot exactly what they should be. But generally, I think I want to get Gordon in, as we sort of like mentioned, and that will be to replace Matoma and Saliba that I've had my eye on, and I think Colwell's going to go out. And that's like, I don't planning that around fixtures. I'm just planning around getting to a team that is solid, that I can attack which fixtures I wish with that. I really would like Bowen. He may be injured, and I'm not quite sure how I'm going to get him in without sort of like making multiple transfers to be able to afford that budget, because most of the players I do actually quite like, and therefore I may have to wait until I kick Salah out, and then Bowen can come in. So Bowen as well, because I think he's going to be a great player.
Yeah, so I got Bowen. I got him in early, so I'm hoping he's not injured. I'd be pretty gutted, to be honest, if he was, having got on him already and knowing you guys have got a couple of transfers on me. So not a whole lot to add for me. I think again, like we had an interesting question on why we only do a pod every sort of few months on Twitter, and like a major part of the reason is if you think now we've been playing the game. What was it middle of August and September, October, November? We've been playing the game for like over 3 months now, over 3.5 months, and you guys have used 6 transfers, and I've used 8, and already we're saying we're only interested in 1 or 2 players. Like the whole point and kind of reason we don't do more is because this half of the season, the advice, if you listen to the pre-season one, is hold your transfers back, and like we would just talk like. If we did a pod like every week, we'd just be, "Hey guys, all right, yeah, what's your advice? Don't make any transfers. Okay, thank you, goodbye. Sign up to Fantasy Football Hub. See you next week." So that's the reason why we don't. But we tend to look at do pods every sort of 3 months and look at things at a macro level, because short-term fixtures in this game in the first half of the season definitely just not worth making loads of transfers. So
it's quite funny because I was just thinking you could probably summarize the first 2, maybe 3 podcasts in first, welcome to the new season. Any picks? Oh yeah, there's a couple of new signings, but don't touch them because we don't know what they're going to be like in the league. Hold transfers. Oh, Carl, who's your tip? Okay, yeah, get that guy.
That's about it.
One done. Pod 2, how you doing? Bit average. Don't really care about the score right now. What happened? Oh yeah, I got some cheap guy and he flopped. Thanks. Any transfers? Nah, none planned. Thanks.
Yeah.
Hold your transfers till Christmas, and then Christmas do loads.
Yeah. Make sure you subscribe to the channel.
6 months.
For all the exciting content we've got at Fantasy Football Hub. But yeah, it's right. I think looking back at the players, we all know the best players, right? The kind of player we really want. I mentioned earlier, probably Vicario, Saliba, Trippier, Saka, Haaland and Salah. I'm only going here on on the better players in in the game. So we tend to focus a bit more. I think if you haven't got Cole Palmer, I've got him now in my team. I'm really happy to hold him, and I think he could be an absolute gem in this format, especially over the Christmas period. I think he would be one I would definitely throw in there. I would have said Mbeumo, but obviously he does blank in game week 18, and then after that, a couple of weeks after that, he goes off to AFCON as well. So I'm cooling on that one as well. Gordon, completely agree. I think Arsenal, Newcastle defence, and then I say Bowen, Saka. Who's in my? I think now where did my who's the other one I'm missing? And Palmer, yeah. So, yeah, not too much to kind of add. I think it's still very much a case of keep your powder dry. Kind of move to cart. Move. If you're off the pace, right? If you're really struggling, you're off the pace. Just try and gently move your way towards Carl's optimal team we showed earlier. If you move your way kind of towards that, you won't go far wrong in this.
Well, can I chuck in one interesting one?
Please.
I think with those fixtures. So pre-season we were like, oh, who's going to play Jackson or Nunku? I don't know. I'm doing a Carl here, aren't I, in pronunciation? But Christopher Nkunku. But he's French, and he is theoretically fit from this game week.
A really good show.
Now, if Jackson's going,
good show,
and he's not as good as he is, he could be an absolute gem to do that transfer.
Boom.
I don't know, but if Chelsea do go up, having a double up with Palmer and him could be very, very interesting. That
is an absolutely fantastic shout, and yeah, he is.
Nobody knows who I'm talking about because I can't pronounce it. But
Nkunku, it's Nkunku, I know, but yeah, just have a look at his price. He's 5.6 million, which is not bad. He's roughly the same sort of price point as Watkins, Bowen. He may be on penalties as well. I think he would have been mooted to be the first penalty taker, but yeah, we have a question later on around the bolter. Do you remember the bolter question we had last time? Who's your bolter? Which is basically who's the explosive lone player who can do it? And Nkunku, I think, definitely fits into that category. So that is a incredible shout there, Luke. Really good shout.
Reece James is the other one because he's fit again, and if he, he's brilliant. I mean, whether he'd survive more than 3 games, I don't know, but if he could. But yeah, let's see. Let's watch and see, I think.
Good shout. Just have a quick look at player ownership before we come on to questions. Erling Haaland, 73% of the game, unsurprisingly. Saka, 52%, very, very highly owned. Trippier, 50%. That's why the Newcastle cleanies were killing me. I think he had 3? Oh, he had 3 assists in one game, didn't he? That week hurt because he was about 40% owned then, so that smashed me down. Part of the reason I got him in. Saliba, 43%. Salah, 39%. Mitoma, 33.9%. He's really, really highly owned, Mitoma. He could definitely be leaving my team soon. Watkins, 31%. Quite surprised actually. Vicario now. At the start of the season, he was like under 1%, and now he's 27% owned, Vicario. Jared Bowen, 25. Nick Pope, 19.8. Douglas Luiz, 18.72. Diaby, 18. Alvarez, 18. Son, 17. Joachim Anderson, 17. Foden, 16. Gordon, 15. Mbeumo, 14. Ben White, 14. And Ward-Prowse, 13. So quite interestingly, there's quite a lot of high ownership here for some good TFF assets that are not in a lot of our teams either. Players like Luiz, Diaby, Watkins, Anderson, Gordon's 15 as well. I think what we've seen previously, I don't know if you guys remember, we used to show these a couple of years ago. We used to laugh a lot, didn't we? At, like why have they still got all those players? They would be some player that you just wouldn't pick, but looking at this list, there are not many players in there who haven't scored well this season. It's really interesting. I think the think managers are developing and kind of improving. Because looking at that list, there's not a lot to laugh about there, guys. Any surprises or surprise omissions or?
No, Phil Foden is the benchmark there for the dead team. So the dead teams
maybe
must be about 16-17% because he's he's a very good player, but he's not getting much game time, is he? So, but yeah, it's very interesting.
The optimal team is in there. In that top 20 players,
yeah,
the optimal team is all in there, which we haven't seen very often.
Yeah, there's two players that show me that there's probably more engaged players than normal, which is Anderson being so high because I can't remember ever seeing a Palace defender even, they've been good before, but I don't think ever above 10% really. And Anthony Gordon as well, because no one will have had him at the start, so that's all people bringing him in. So that is very interesting. James Ward-Prowse is an interesting one because people have got him in that purple patch. He went absolutely mental. So he'll be in a lot of dead teams now, I reckon. I mean, he's a good player, don't get me wrong, but he hasn't done much for a while.
No, and then there's players like Vicario and Douglas Luiz who are quite niche TFF picks as well, aren't they?
Yeah.
So interesting. Any takes at all, Carl, on the ownership? Any interesting takes or?
Nothing to add to what you sort of said. It's like, it's just so odd to sort of see a whole list of players that I think they're all acceptable.
Absolutely.
I agree that Foden itself hasn't performed given his games for his price tag, but he's a fantastic player, and I can see why people would have selected him. Yes, he missed out on game time, but people may have brought him in more recently when he started playing and scored a couple of goals or assists. So I can see people bringing him in.
I was going to say he has scored 49 points as well. It's not like he hasn't been scoring points either. So yeah, really, really interesting stuff. Good stuff. Questions. We've had loads of questions in from our community on Twitter and in our Hub WhatsApp groups. Just for move on to the questions, we've got average transfers remaining. If you don't know how to find these, you can go on the Telegraph website every week, and they will update them with average remaining transfers. This is it really helps put your season into context. Have you seen these at all, guys, recently in the last few weeks?
No, they'll have used a lot more than me and Carl, I suspect.
Have you seen them at all, Carl? The average transfers remaining.
I have seen it, but I can't remember off the top of my head.
Okay, I'll go to Luke first then. Luke, what do you think the average transfers remaining are for the top 10,000 teams?
10. Oh, you're starting with a hard one.
Top 10k.
Top 10k average transfers used.
Remaining. Sorry, yeah.
Oh, remaining. So 28.
25.37 for the top 10k.
Good.
Average transfers remaining for the top 1k.
Who's that for, me or Carl?
I'll go for Carl this time then.
I'll go 16.4.
Close. 17.36 for the top 1k, and for the top 100, Luke.
Top 100
transfers remaining.
7.8.
You're not doing them justice. 9.56. So yeah, hopefully that'll give everyone listening a little bit of hope. That even if you're not having the best of seasons yet, those transfers are being burnt away like crazy. So all the top 1,000 average is 17. They've whereas I think I'm on 32. You guys are on 34. And the average around us is about 25. Just patient. Wait our time. Always the same story every season. Okay, looking at some questions. Thanks to those who sent them in. Owen Johnson, if you like me with a lot of transfer remains, got 38 left. Instead of a pretty good team, should I be using some now to get to an optimal team, or just play a patient game? He's on 568 points, which is a bit behind the herd, but sure I can catch up if I use the transfers correctly. Very, very well played there, Owen. Luke, what do you think about that? 568 points. Let's have a look.
Well, didn't he win the game once, or the international version?
He won the Euros version, so we should we should be asking him. We should be asking him. And he says as well he's a bit behind the herd. He's only 20 points behind my best team with 6 transfers. So he's doing well.
Yeah, I think use them if you need them. Like Palmer. bit of a no-brainer, really. So doing that move, fine. I think with that, you can afford to make 3 luxury moves on quality enablers like Palmer, who's going to be really good. You know,
Palmer, Gordon,
Yeah.
Bowen if he's fit or something. You can really pump your team up, can't you?
Yeah, I agree. So couple, but don't go mad.
Yeah, like that. Carl, anything to add on that one?
No, I'll just repeat what you've said.
Cool.
So nothing else.
Tim asks, have Chelsea finally found their mojo? If so, who are the best options? Obviously Palmer, but who else? So Luke has chucked Nkunku in. I love that shout, Luke. You also mentioned Reece James. Anyone else at all from Chelsea? Sterling's having a decent season. But
Too expensive.
Yeah, I think
it's just too expensive. I looked at him earlier in the season, and it just 6.3 or 4, I think he is, isn't he? He should be a midfielder about high 4s, low 5s. He should not be a striker at 6.2 million. Like, he's only just less than Salah. It's like, no.
I think I'd chuck Colwill in the mix. 2.9 million. Looks like he's nailed a place in the team. They look really good. Scored 35 points already. I took him out a few weeks ago. He did have a knock last weekend, but I think in kind of the long term, 2.9 million for Chelsea defender is pretty decent. Anyone, go on.
Well, I was just going to say, I think give Chelsea the next 4 games, and we will know if they've got their mojo.
Yeah,
and it's still not too late to. They've got one of the pretty decent run on that previous slide. Like, in 4 games, you will know whether they've got their mojo. Gallagher's another one. It looks like he's now got a place in the team, and he's getting tackles, and he can score a goal.
He's on 50 points. He's on 50 points.
He's a pretty good player. So if he keeps his place as well, I mean, he's not going to set the world on like Palmer's better value, in my opinion. But yeah, there could be a few good assets there.
I know you said Reece James, but he's 5 million. I wouldn't be going there personally. Carl, anything to add on Chelsea?
Well, I think it's really tricky. It's like, yes, very much like Luke sort of said, have they got their mojo back? It's like first game of the season they played Liverpool, and I thought they looked fantastic. And I was quite happy having Chelsea players in all my formats, and then they were pretty dire. Except then when they played like Spurs and they played decent, and when they played Man City they played good. And is it like, because they got very good top quality players, can they perform against the struggling teams? Like, didn't they lose at home to Notts Forest or somebody? And it's like, they've got it there. I wouldn't be jumping on too many of their assets too quickly. And they've also got a large squad of top quality players as well. And how much of them is going to get rotated during this very busy period that's coming up? So yeah, if you've got transfers like Owen and go in there by all means. If you've used up quite a lot of transfers, maybe you could be a bit more cautious.
Yeah. Go for Palmer and Nkunku and Colwill is like 3. Neil Baker, he's the chap who asked about the Bolter. So the Bolter is the surprise selection, a pick that most of the public didn't see coming. Who's your Bolter to look at over the winter? What a great question. Luke, are you sticking with your Nkunku pick? I'm very jealous of that pick, gotta be honest.
Well, I think he could be. I'm gonna go back to my old mate again for about the 4,000th shout. I'm gonna go back to Foster at Burnley, because I think Burnley will get better. I think they will strengthen in the transfer window. And I think he is. I'm not a Burnley expert, but he looks like he's got that place, because even when he got sent off, he came straight back in the team. And at 2.1 million, if you could pack that midfield and defence if those turn around, he's such an enabler at that. Well, I think he's probably the cheapest regularly playing player in the game, isn't he, at 2.1? So for value, I'm not saying he's going to go absolutely ballistic and score hat-trick after hat-trick, but for value, I think he could be the best value player in the game at the end of the season if he nails that place and Burnley start sort of performing a bit better. There's a few ifs there, but there you go. That would be my wild card one.
Nice. Carl, you want to add in there?
Well, since Luke's passed him up, I'll have the
Oh,
cocoa.
you swine.
And funnily enough, if Luke had said Foster, I'd have sort of said him only because of his cheapness, and he only needs to play. The thing about Foster, I say the thing about, not that I know anything about him, but they sort of said isn't it his mental well-being or something,
Yeah.
and therefore it's not like just a normal injury.
Yeah.
So that could be in and out over a long period of time, unfortunately. And another one, Awani, I think it's going to be really good, but I don't know his nationality, so I'd have to look it up. E.g., is he missing through January or whatever? But I think for his price,
he's Nigerian, so he is gonna. I'm guessing he'll be off to a AFCON. But.
So if you forget about January, I think he'll be a good show.
Wow, yeah, it's a bloody tough one. This is. I'm gonna go for someone completely random who I don't think he's been mentioned in. I'm just trying to find him. I don't think he's been mentioned at all in fantasy terms this season. Quite rightly so. But I still think that Spurs on the front foot are a really good team. They're not going to change their style of play. I'm going to go. I can't believe I'm going to say this. I'm going to go for Brennan Johnson for Spurs.
That's interesting.
He's 3.1 million forward. Richarlison's out for a while. That is then going to coincide with Son leaving for the Asian Cup, which means that Johnson, for me, is probably going to get a pretty extended run in the team for a free scoring, gung ho Spurs. So you asked for a bolter, Neil. I mean, you got three bolters there. Let me tell you, we've got Lyle Foster, Nkunku, and Brennan Johnson. I've just come up with that at the top of my head. I was thinking about Spurs forward. So 3.1 million. Who knows? Any thoughts on that, guys? Don't laugh. Can't laugh.
It's interesting. I mean, none of us picked Haaland. It's probably the one that's going to do it.
Oh, he's not a bolter though. He's not a surprise. A surprise
I guess
selection.
If that's the definition of surprise, okay,
it's got to be a surprise.
Enough.
It's one that people go, what? Like the ones we've mentioned, I think. So
no, there's got to be a couple of other injured people that I can't remember that have probably dropped off the radar that will come back and just say, oh, I forgot he played there.
Apparently, Luke Shaw might be back next week, which would be.
See, that's another shout. Yeah. But anyway, yeah.
Andrew McGill, apart from the obvious in Vicario, which TFF players do you think are proven to be particularly under or overpriced this season? I think we touched on the underpriced ones, haven't we? I think we've definitely touched on the underpriced ones. Are there any kind of massively overpriced player? I think Bruno so far.
Sterling.
Rashford. I mean, Rashford. My goodness. At least with Bruno, we can get some tackle bonus. Rashford's been bloody dire, hasn't he? 32 points, 5.9 million. Yeah, he's been awful. Won't be going anywhere near him. Have a quick look at the prices.
I've just spotted another bolter while doing that. KDB's going to be back at some point in the new year. He'll be one you want to jump on bloody fast.
He will be back. Sterling's got 52 points. Trent only 38 points and 5.5 million.
No, yeah.
That's not good, is it? Robertson only,
Liverpool forwards.
Yeah, and defenders. Robertson only 23 points, 5.2 million. I know he's been out now for a couple of games, but yeah, and the Man City defenders as well have all been awful.
Yeah, Walker's been for his price 4.8. He's only got 42 points, and Virgil.
Ooh.
Yeah,
Walker and Virgil van Dijk 5.3. He's only got 35 points.
Ruben Diaz has got 27 points, 5.2 million. Incredible.
Tell you what, got another bolter.
Go on.
Ivan Toney's going to be back early in the new year as well, isn't he?
Yeah, who'll he be playing for?
Well, who cares? Whoever he's playing
Whoever he's
for,
playing for, he'd be good. He will be
if
good.
he's still at Brentford, his competition's off at the African nations.
You're picking the boulders up, mate. I got to be honest. 5 points.
Making it up. It's a good question. I'm enjoying this one.
5.2 million, owned by 0.22% of the game as well, interestingly. Peter Clinch, my old headmaster, how do you plan to exploit the December 3-0 around Man City? So Liverpool, Villa, United. So we've heard Carl's plan. Carl is going to daisy chain Salah in, and then Haaland out. Salah out and Haaland back in. That is a daisy chain for Carl. Have you thought much about it yet, Luke? I'm probably just going to leave it until the time, but
I'm going to leave it to the time, and I like Carl's plan, so I'm just going to work out who I'm daisy chaining with. That'll probably be the only difference, but yeah.
Copy in, Carl.
It's a good plan, Carl. Well played.
It is indeed. Mark asks around, with Newcastle and Tottenham's defences blighted by injuries and suspensions, Villa not keeping clean sheets, which club presents the value for money defenders in your opinion? Palace at the moment are the team, and I think the fact that Sam Johnston was right down the bottom for saves as well proves it's not a fluke. They're not fluky, and Anderson as well. He's got a couple of goals. I think it's as well, haven't he? So I think Palace still. I know you think they're overperforming, Carl, but I think the defensive data for Palace is pretty decent. So I still think they could be, reasonable shouts. Think Colwill still going forward. Now I know Chelsea haven't been the best, but I think they have improved. I think they will keep improving. Newcastle and Arsenal generally, I think, will still be strong. Botman will probably be back soon as well. 3.5 million looks really good. Saliba's only 3.6. I don't really trust Villa or West Ham or Man United or Man City or anyone like that, really. Any added thoughts on defences, guys?
No, I think the only thing I would add is the point I made earlier on Everton is that points the next few games I think will tell us, because the Pickford was really low. I mean, very good shot stopper as well, but the fact that they're so low that clearly indicates how they're playing. So that they could be interesting defensively. But I mean, then you've got Hodgson at Palace, so he's always going to play defensively. So you got those, you know what comes with those managers. So they could be all right, I think.
Mark also asks, which, if any, apart from Haaland, Man City assets in any position to look for over the busy festive period? Carl, have you got any thoughts on that?
God, no. It's really hard. You need to, with Man City, for me, I tend to stay away because you never know who's going to be playing. Silva is probably the one who sort of like chips in. So when they get, I wouldn't be targeting them over Christmas particularly, but when I see that they have a run of games, that's when I'll be looking at who's playing at the wings. So Silva is probably the most consistent. Yeah, but apart from that, there's too much uncertainty, and I'd much rather go for someone like Bowen or Saka, who I know is going to play week in, week out. So I will be staying clear. I'm sorry.
I completely agree. Can I chuck out one thought on City, which is the Mahrez effect? And I know he's not there. One of the wingers who's not playing at the moment regularly will come into that team over the Christmas period and smash it, because that's Pep. That Mahrez is always around that, Christmas through to end of January, and then he just goes, he disappears again. So they must have some stats where somebody's tired or something, and they do that. But yeah, so I don't know whether it will be Grealish or it will be Foden or Dooku. I think is in the team, so it's probably not going to be him. He'll probably drop out. John Stones is the other interesting one at City, because he's fit again now. I can't remember how much he's played.
He's injured again now, mate.
Oh, is he injured again? Yeah. Okay, yeah.
He was fit. Then he got injured again.
Yeah. So, but I like Carl. There's two players in City that you can trust, isn't it? And that's Haaland and the keeper. Otherwise,
one other. I just noticed him on the chart. Rodri.
Oh yeah,
He
actually,
plays
it's a good
week in, week
shout.
out, and he scores 1.1 near enough points per pound per game, and he's played a bit more attacking this year, scored a few goals, and he's going to play near enough all the time.
Yeah, I just think that if you drop 1 million, you get Felina for the same, well, more points
Yeah,
actually, isn't it? That's the thing,
yeah.
though.
If you thought they was going to get three, when they get a double game week that's coming up, the rearranged game against Brentford, you may want a little
Yeah,
short term spurt. But yeah, nothing really overly appealing.
it's bonkers, isn't it? For the best team in the league by a flipping mile, and we're like, don't touch them. It's madness.
It is, but
Yeah.
I think we will be after AFCON and the Asian Cup, and we get that fixture congestion. We get these three for
And the
3 for
cup
0s,
games.
4 ones, the cup games.
Yeah.
I think that's when we'll be piling in, and and you'll have injuries. And in the second half of the season, I think Pep tends to play a lot more stable sort of team as well, doesn't he? So, Peter also asks what the best way to approach AFCON and Asian Cup. I think we've kind of done that to death. DB asks about Polina. Is he still the go-to tackle monster enabler? I think yeah. Would you invest now or be considered about a January transfer? I think. Well, he's banned. He's banned now for a game. He's banned for Monday night, and I reckon he might go in January. So I probably wouldn't go there now personally. Would either of you guys go there now for him, or would you just wait?
Not for me. Need to know it's just not worth risking it, I don't think.
Yeah. He's not like an explosive player which is going to bang in like a 15 or 17 pointer, is he? So cool. Couple more questions we had in the Hub WhatsApp chat for Telegraph from Sai. Interesting one. What is now classed as a decent finish for an engaged player? He says, I've been playing since the early days, over 25 years, probably closer to 30, and I've had top 100 finishes. The standard of managers rose dramatically thanks to people crossing from other games and the content about. I'd say top 100 is now an exceptional season. Top 250 very good. Top 500 good. Top 1k decent. Top 5k very average, and below that. That's his thoughts. I suppose just ask both of you guys, what would you class as a finish which you would think would be a really acceptable good finish that you would be really, really pleased with at the moment? What would you say, Luke?
My target is always top 100 in this game. So I've done it a few times. I haven't done it for a while actually. I got quite a couple of years back. I was very close and dropped out right at the last minute. But yeah, that's the target. But top 100, I think, is a really really strong season. So yeah, so I think what he said is about right. Yeah, I think top 2k is probably par. That's the only thing I would say. I think if you finish inside the top 2k, you've done all right. It's respectable.
How about yourself, Carl?
Yeah, I always target the top 100. But as the questioner sort of said, I think that has been a very good season now rather than an average season. But that's the only target I go for in terms of position. And if I thought of any other anything else, it'd be within the top 1,000, only because you go from 4 digits to 3. But I aim for top 100, and then I think, yeah, I've done really good. If I don't, I'm not so worried about much. And it depends on what you played the game for. I like winning my mini leagues.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's a good point.
I'm beating you two. Not that I ever do it, but that's where I get my pleasure, from the mini leagues and the people I'm compared against rather than overall rank. But I would go top 100, and after that, I'm not overly worried.
I think the last two. I can't remember where I finished last year. I think it was 100 and something, and I finished 42nd the year before. But I did get as high as 4th the year before last. So I think I'm maybe a bit more. I wouldn't say ambitious. Probably unreasonably optimistic. Ambitious. I'm trying to maybe go a little bit higher. Sort of top 50 maybe would be my kind of really like to knock on the door of that. But if I finished in the top 100, I'd win probably most, if not all, my mini leagues, apart from the ones I'm in with the hub. because we've always I think we've had the winner and multiple top 10 finishes in the last few things. So, but yeah, I'd be really happy. I don't know if I do think if you're not finishing in the top 1,000 and you're a hub member in the WhatsApp group, I think that looking at the progress of managers in that group, like most of them finish in the top 1,000, top 500, very, very regularly. So I would say just from that perspective that I would personally be very disappointed if I didn't finish in the top 500. I think now, with my main team. But everyone's experience is different and stuff, right? So, but yeah, interesting that we're interesting chat. And final bunch of questions coming from Simon Baldock. He asks about a short list of players to help climb rank over the next wee while. He says, Fergie, can you list please be shorter than last time? Thanks. I think we've gone through that one already, which is good. Is there a player you are worried by not owning, and do you have plans to bring them in? That's an interesting one. Are there any players we're worried about kind of not owning? Mine was Trippier a few weeks ago, so I've just remedied that. Anyone you guys are scared of not owning?
Palmer was the one I was scared of, and Trippier, and they're my last two transfers.
Yeah.
So
I would say for me it's probably more Bowen, just because he's quite highly owned, and I don't have him, and he can score a lot of goals. Interestingly, when you mentioned Palmer, as we moved on, he wasn't on any of the high ownership list. So
that's a good point. Good point.
It would hurt a little. It would hurt a little bit, but he ain't going to hurt my rank or anything like that. So if he bangs off, it's not going to be the end of the world.
He'll hurt you mini league with us too.
He's 8.94% at the moment, but I reckon he's going to be up to close to 40% in the next month. I reckon he's going to fly up because just because he's so cheap, and he's good in the form charts as well.
Yeah, well, he will worry me because I'm not bringing him in.
Oh wow!
I haven't planned to bring him in. So,
I think Ollie Watkins scares me a lot as well. I haven't had him, and he's very scary every time he plays. He's frightening player to not own, Ollie Watkins. So he did my other one. He said, "Who would your optimal mid-priced best player be? Please." He said, "I've used so many transfers going from Martinelli to Ward-Prowse to Louise to Gross of Brighton to Jensen, mostly injury related, but optimal mid-priced player. I think going forward, I think Anthony Gordon sounds like the player we've all got our eye on, isn't he?"
Yeah, I mean, I picked Diaby, shouted Diaby out at the start of the season. Really he looks really good on the eye. Watkins, I think, has got more. I think my perception of, albeit mostly watching highlights, Watkins got more goals than he should, and Diaby's got less. And there's a few sitters that he set up that have been missed, mostly by Watkins, I might add, which is a bit annoying. So Diaby at 4, I think, is a really good price because he's not going to get dropped. He's brilliant. So watch him get dropped next game now. But like that, and it's a nice price point that you can go up fairly easily and down fairly easily.
I think though, whoever you pick, Simon, if it's Diaby or Gordon, I would just stick with them. You never like going through transfers, just trying to hop on to last week points almost is just never going to work. You just burn through. So, and the final question, which is good. What key lessons have you learned from the season so far, and which of these will you be applying between now and the next podcast? Good question. Anything spring to? I think for me it was probably to jump on a really highly owned player that I know I should own in Trippier. I'm sometimes quite stubborn, and I was a bit late on Trippier. I think that's probably my one. Anything else to add, gents? Or
I think we've learned that Haaland's still good. And Newcastle weren't a flash in the pan, and I think that's important. So I think some of those Newcastle assets are still very good value this year.
yep. Anything from you, Carl? Have you learned anything?
Well, I've learned that I'm still more stubborn than yourself because I didn't bring Trippier in, and I'm still not bringing him in. But and Luke's point is brilliant. That they're still a good team and still good value. Is Newcastle all over, and it's hard to learn some things when they're not. One of the things, and it applies to most of the games, is patience. So, like Newcastle, they started off bad, but they do come good, and it's sometimes recognising that they've gone through a bad patch and being patient, they come out the other side. But like Bruno, he stayed bad and continued to be bad, and eventually you give up. But if you give up, then he may go on a good streak, and it's like sometimes I don't think. I think some people, when you look back and you think, oh, they've done good, I should have jumped on that, and punish yourself. Don't beat yourself up, and I beat myself up by that. The only things that you could change, and there's someone like Ward Price who I've got on my team, and I've kept him, and I haven't monitored about, like, his points at the moment is fine, but he's changed position.
Yeah.
So I think he played a bit more advanced, and now he's playing a bit deeper, and maybe like responding to things like that a bit more quickly. And like even now, I've opened whether I should get rid or not and use up some transfers. But it's much more about awareness of positional changes rather than just jumping on and off the hot thing. You've got to have the patience, otherwise you'd be jumping on and off every week. So sorry, I rambled.
Yeah. Well, no, it's a good point. One more for me, Fergie. That I reflect on this almost every single season about this time of the season when I look at ownership charts, and there's people I go, why the hell are people buying those players? DRB, albeit I think I called him, not DRB, Louise, I think I called him out, but Adam certainly did on other podcasts. And I thought, he's good, but I'll wait and see. And Anderson, like, I've got another mate who's a Palace fan who thinks he's brilliant and he's a real big goal threat, right? But I've just got my own perception that because they've not done it year in, year out, and there's a lot of, I guess, less engaged managers that will just go, they're top on points, they're really good value, let's go for them. And I think sometimes us as experienced managers, it will generally pay out, but there are definitely players where we will stall on because the masses will move and we'll just be like, meh. And then you get to a point where they can hurt you at 20% ownership and you've kind of sort of slept on it. And so that's one learning which I kind of take every year and probably fail to act on every year.
Yeah, I do the same. You kind of and I also think, looking at Trippier now as well, I mean, thinking about it, Trippier was probably always a transfer waiting to happen for me as well. And okay, the fixtures were awful to start with, but now we're 12 games in, which is a really big sample size, and he's the top.
Yeah,
he's the top scoring defender. Why don't I just start with him? I know that opening fixtures weren't the best, but this is a long-term game, long-term strategy. He was a transfer waiting to happen. I should have just started with him, and maybe that's something I can take into next season. Is don't even worry about like these players we're talking about. For me, like I've mentioned, Trippier, Saka, Haaland, get them in. Don't worry about the transfers. They're long-term, incredible picks. We're going to haul when you don't expect them to as well. And then you run into the easy games. People are suddenly scrabbling to buy them, and you already got them. You're already thinking about someone else. So, but yeah, good stuff, chaps. Thanks for that. Quick look at the top of the. No, we won't. We'll just have a quick look at our teams again. Carl, just so I suppose based on what we've just talked about, what are your next moves for your team?
Yeah, so I've been pondering on this, and it's like I'm going to keep most of it similar, and it's just a question of how much am I to change. Like I sort of said, Matoma's going, and I had that optimal team is something that I want to sort of shift towards. But obviously, Mbumbo's going to AFCON and he's missing a game, so it's about sort of like chinkering around there. But Matoma's going, and it's bringing in Gordon, and I had sort of thought about getting rid of Colwell and bringing in Saliba. But after you mentioned about Colwell, I'm going to have to think about, should it be Colwell or should it be Ugogi to make that switch. And I have got my eye on Derby and Bowen, but you know, you can only have 11, and it's like, yeah, I want them, but am I going to do it quick? So those are the two I'm going to do, plus the Haaland thing that I sort of talked about before. One other, sorry, just sort of going back on when you mentioned Anderson, who's on 51. You've got Gay on 39, near enough the same price. And I'd be interested to know how many goals that he should have scored, and in a different version of, in a different universe, he would be top, or he could be top, and Anderson could be where he is, because he's had like 2 or 3 headers inside 6-yard box that he's just glanced wide, and a more firmer header they could have gone in the goal. And you know, those are sliding doors moments, and they all are. You know, same as Trippier, he is top, but in a different world, he wouldn't be top. And he's not like top. He's not like Haaland on the strikers, where he's like clear from the rest. He's only 4 points ahead of Saliba.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't sort of say, you know. Anyway, I love Trippier, but I've got Shah, and it's like, well, I'm not going to just burn a transfer to go from one to another when there's not a huge difference. If Shah scores next week, then you know they'll be neck and neck again.
I just had a quick look on Fantasy Football Hub website at Anderson versus Gahey kind of attacking stats, and Anderson is pretty superior. He spends a lot more time in the opposition half, has lots more shots in the box, lots more shots, lots more touches, lots more final third passes. So I think in terms of actual XG, it's quite similar, but Anderson does spend a lot more time in the box, has lots more shots and things. So but yeah, interesting stuff there, Carl. Thank you very much. Luke, got your team. What's your plans for the next few weeks?
Do nothing, I think, bar an injury, and then Haaland and Alvarez will go on some sort of daisy chain. So probably Alvarez to Watkins is an easy move because I've got the money in the bank, and then Haaland could become anyone. But might even become Darwin Núñez or someone like that, actually, particularly because then when Salah goes, I keep the Liverpool coverage for Salah being away, because I think they'll still be attacking. So that something like that, but I can switch to having the 5 in the midfield as well, I think. So yeah, I don't know, but Alvarez will almost certainly become Watkins, and yeah, Haaland to somebody that looks good at the time.
Yeah, looking now, I think Mitoma to Gordon is probably looking good. I've still got the option of doing Alvarez, then White. So I would be in a 4-4-2 then, which feels a bit strange. So I don't know. Mitoma to Gordon probably looks a smart one. But maybe I was keen on getting rid of Udogie, but I think you guys may have changed my mind on that one. I'm not sure yet. Especially seems like Spurs have got 3 of the next 4 at home, and then they've got a run of really good fixtures. I do like Colwell. I do like Nkunku. I think Nkunku could be a real under the radar pick. And then like Vicario, Saliba, Trippier, Saka, Bowen, Palmer. As long as Bowen's fit, Haaland and Salah will just stay. And then I'll do probably similar to you guys in terms of just juggling things around over Christmas with AFCON and the Club World Cup and stuff. So yeah, we will see. I reckon I'll probably have about 25 transfers going into the new year. But as we've already mentioned, then we'll be set for January almost. So we won't need to make any more then until going into February. So I think that'll be quite reasonable. I hope I can get into the by that period, maybe the top sort of 3 or 4K with 25 left into New Year. Think that'd be reasonable. And as we know, then we just fly up all through the spring. You halve rank nearly every week, don't you, in that period, because everyone else just runs out of transfers. So good stuff. Quick look at the Fantasy Football Hub £200 Members League. These people certainly aren't struggling this season. In 10th place, Mark Williamson, 639th overall. Very well played. Tim Barry, 634th overall. 8th place, Cian McKenna, 577th. Then James Ingram, who's having a cracking all-round season in every single format. He's got 5 teams. They are all on the same points. So they're the exact same teams. And he takes up 7th to 3rd. They've all got 655 points. Incredible stuff. And knowing James as well, he won't have used many transfers. Mark Bleakley is 2nd, overall position 374th. And Mark Chadwick is top 276th. Very well played. I also ran a quick, asked a question in our Fantasy Football Hub TFF chat last week, the week before, and some of the positions were just crazy. Really, really good stuff from everyone in that chat. So very, very well played, everyone. They down the bottom in that league, which is not good. So very well played, everyone there. And that is it from us for this podcast, TFF for November. We hope we've enjoyed. Thank you so much, Luke and Carl. Another late night for us, guys. And thanks to all our loyal watchers and listeners for their great questions and comments, all the feedback we get. We really, really, really do appreciate it. Luke, thank you. And where can people get hold of you?
At FPL Equation on Twitter, albeit I'm on there less regularly because of family juggling at the moment, but they're in the WhatsApp groups with the Hub. I'm in most of them as well.
Lovely stuff. And Carl, thank you as usual. Brilliant stuff. Thanks for all your prep as well, for all the slides and data. Where can people get hold of you?
Yeah, I'm also on Twitter at Darkest Jungle.
Superb. And this video will be on the Fantasy Football Hub, Sky and Telegraph YouTube channel, with the podcast versions available on all major podcast platforms. If you like what you watched, we'd really appreciate it if you press the like button. Remember to subscribe if you haven't already. If you enjoyed your listen, please rate the podcast and leave a comment. Our handles on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok are at FFH_HQ. Please feel free to drop us a follow and ask any questions. Our website is fantasyfootballhub.co.uk, where you'll find everything you need for fantasy football, all under one roof, including player comparison tools, fixture ticker, Opta stats, top player team reveals, and much, much more. Sky Planner Maestro Ian Parrin has built a TFF transfer planner for Hub members and for Pro members. We also have our TFF dedicated WhatsApp group. I'm trying to look how many people are in that group now. It's 135 people in this Telegraph dedicated WhatsApp group, and the vast majority of them are having really good seasons. If you're not in this group, become a Pro member and join this group. You will have a good season guaranteed. If you join this group, it is absolutely fantastic. Great people in there. Really good advice. All hold each other to account. All share information, share ideas. It's really, really good stuff. I also do a weekly voice note in there as well with kind of my latest brain dump, Fergie's rant, or Fergie's prattle. That's what we tend to call it in there. Don't forget, you can also find some Telegraph stuff on ffstuff.co.uk. And Paul McNulty also writes a members-only Hub article around Telegraph. That's coming out this week. It's a brilliant read. Paul McNulty, one of the best all-round fantasy football managers in the world. He's having a storming season as well in Telegraph. I think he's 1.7k or something at the moment, and he also writes exclusively for the Telegraph itself. You go to telegraph.co.uk/fantasy sports. Paul writes for those as well. I also give my team reveal, so I reveal all my plans every single week on fantasyfootballhub.co.uk. So if you join up there, you can read my thoughts. I did say I was bringing in Ben White on Saturday. Obviously that didn't happen because he was injured, so things like that do happen, but generally I'm happy to share absolutely everything with the Hub members, all of my plans. We wish you the very best of luck. for the coming period. Enjoy the festive period, enjoy the football, have a great Christmas, New Year. We will be back in the new year. Not sure when yet. I would suggest probably around February potentially. We'll let this slow period of January get out of the way, and then we'll look to do some hardcore planning. We'll probably be back in February, I'm guessing. But yeah, in the meantime, best of luck and goodbye for now.